Why your follow up isn't working. A few episodes back, I told you ghosting isn't rejection, it's a process problem. Today's the fix. Your follow up isn't working because you don't have a system for who to chase, who to nurture, and who to release. That gap is costing you deals you already paid to generate. If you appreciate me making this type of content, let me know by gently tapping that like button and consider subscribing and sharing this with someone who needs to hear it. Let's get into it. I'm James Miller. We grew a specialty composites company from $10 million dollars to $43 million dollars before it was acquired by a Fortune 100 company for $123 million. Dollars. We didn't do that by guessing. We did it by tracking exactly where revenue was being won and lost inside our own sales process. And that's what I help business owners do now through Solo Growth AI's three programs: Sales Velocity Advantage, Voice Equity, and the Whale Hunting Advantage. The mistake. Here's the mistake I see over and over. A prospect goes quiet, and business owners do one of two things. They either chase, sending message after message until it gets annoying, or they quit after one or two tries and assume the prospect wasn't serious. Both of these are guesses, not decisions, because neither one is based on where that prospect actually is. The problem is you're treating every prospect the same, and they're not the same. Some of them are ready to buy now. Some of them are going to be ready, just not yet. And some of them were never going to buy from you, no matter what you said or how many times you followed up. The cost. Think about what that actually costs you. If you're spending the same amount of follow up time on that bottom 30% as you are on the best 3%, you're not just wasting time, you're actively pulling attention away from the prospects who are ready to buy right now. That's not a minor inefficiency. That's real revenue sitting on the table while you chase people who are never going to say yes. The buyer's pyramid. There's a well known sales book called The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes that breaks this down with real numbers. At any given time, about 3% of your ideal client population is ready to buy right now. Another 67% are open to buying, they're just not there yet. And the remaining 30% were never going to buy from you. Here's what matters: that bottom 30% will self select out. They stop responding, they unsubscribe, they tell you no. You don't need a system to find them. What you need a system for is sorting the 3% from the 67%, because right now you're probably treating both groups the same way. And that's where deals are quietly dying. Quick break. If you want to know where this sorting gap is costing you in your own pipeline, I built a free diagnostic that walks you through it in about 20 minutes. Link is in the description and pinned comment below. All right, back to it. The MQL to SQL gate. So, how do you actually sort the 3% from the 67% without sitting there guessing? A few episodes back, I mentioned a gate called MQL to SQL, marketing qualified lead to sales qualified lead, and told you we'd get to it later. This is later. Here's how it works: every prospect who enters your pipeline gets a lead score based on what they actually do. Did they open the email? Did they click through? Did they come back to your site a second time? Did they ask a specific question instead of a generic one? None of that is a guess, it's a number. And when that number crosses a threshold you set in advance, that's the signal. That's your CRM telling you, in effect, your prospect just moved from nurture into now. Go make that call. Here's what that actually looks like in practice. Say within a 3-day window, a prospect opens 3 of your emails, clicks through on 2 of them, and comes back to your website on their own. Individually, none of that means much, but added up in that short time frame, and that's a real pattern of rising interest happening quickly, not a guess. Once that combination crosses the threshold you set, the system flags them, and that's your cue to pick up the phone. Tony example. Let me give you an example, Tony. He had this exact problem. His first calls were great. Some prospects enrolled right away, and most didn't, even though every call felt good. When he started, we pulled his baseline sales velocity numbers: 500 opportunities, average deal value of 3,000, win rate around 3%, and sales cycle he estimated at 30 days. That works out to about 70 calls a month, closing an average of 2 deals. The baseline calculation of his sales velocity equation showed the resultant to be $1,500. Once you see the numbers, you stop guessing and start seeing exactly where the process leaks. Tony's process itself was solid. What he didn't have was an explanation for the ghosting. So we set up the now and nurture split using a simple, inexpensive CRM with 3 automated email campaigns triggered by where each prospect was in the process. Every email was built to engage, educate, and add value with the goal of getting a prospect ready to buy before Tony ever got on the phone with them, and a lead score that told him exactly how ready they were and why. About 6 months later, his numbers told the story. Opportunities were up 20% to 600. Average deal value was up 3,600, a 20% increase. After we sharpened his ideal client profile and added an upsell, a downsell, a cross sell, and a bundled offer, win rate went from 3% to 3.6% because the system was now preparing and qualifying prospects and setting the calls up for him. And his sales cycle dropped from an estimated 30 days to a tracked 5 days, a 6x reduction. This put his sales velocity number at an entirely different level. With those 4 adjustments compounding together, it was now at 15,522. By doing this sorting process that qualified his leads and tracking his sales velocity equation weekly, Tony has increased his revenue and reduced his workload. Same basic system, a completely different sales velocity number, and Tony isn't guessing about ghosting anymore. Most business owners have never seen their own numbers laid out that plainly. They're running on instinct, hoping the next follow up lands instead of watching a system tell them exactly when a prospect is ready. Touch points. Now, here's a number worth knowing before you build that nurture sequence. HubSpot's own research on prospecting puts the useful number of touch points at about 8. And after that, you're in diminishing returns territory. A 10th touch point doesn't add much once you've already made 8. So the goal isn't infinite follow up. It's a structured sequence of around 8 touches mixed across channels that moves a prospect's lead score up over time, instead of you manually guessing whether today is the day to call them again. Tying it to sales velocity equation. This is exactly what the sales velocity equation is for. Opportunities times win rate times average deal value divided by sales cycle length. When you sort now from nurture and you stop guessing on follow up, you're not just feeling more organized, you're directly improving your win rate because you stop wasting your best effort on the 67% who aren't ready yet. And you stop losing the 3% who are ready right now because they got buried in the same generic sequence as everyone else. Track your sales velocity number every week, and this stops being a feeling and starts being a number that you can actually move. And if you want to go deeper on the number one reason marketing leads never convert, I made a video on exactly that. You can check it out by clicking right here.